Hello, this is Angela with Permaculture. I'm getting ready to go for a hike. I'm in the Arboretum again today, but I wanted to make a quick video before I head out. So some of you know that I have a TikTok. I have just started to use it seriously in the last week or so, and the number of followers that I have has increased by about sixfold. And I put content on there that's maybe slightly different than the content on here. Still totally focused on earth care, people care, and fair share, but like a little bit different take. So there has been a question that's been going around on TikTok, which is, would you rather be lost alone in the wilderness with a man or a bear? And it has been fascinating. So I'm going to show you some of the TikToks that I made. And, you know, I am lucky to have kind of curated my TikTok feed so that I don't get a lot of like toxic content. But the first initial video that I made, I was replying to a dude who felt very threatened by this question. So the responses that women are giving are very different than the responses that a lot of men are getting. And I think a lot of men are surprised by what women are saying, which is that if we had to choose between being stuck in the wilderness with a random man or a random bear, we would choose the bear every time. And what that says about the way that women perceive men and the very real threat that men pose to women in our society. So 1 in 3 women will be SA'd by a man in her lifetime. 60% of children will experience domestic violence by a man, either against them directly or they will witness it against their mother. Depending on the stats you look at, anywhere between 87 and 91% of all violent crimes are committed by men. 99% of SAs are committed by men, and 91% of those victims are women. So before you guys come at me for saying, like, why are you talking about this on a permaculture channel? I talk about earth care, people care, and fair share. And people care includes having hard conversations that may make one segment of our population uncomfortable, but are crucial in order to create safety and security for other members of our community. And I think that if we skirt around those conversations, we're not really doing permaculture. And a lot of men are getting really offended and taking it very, very personally. When we say man or bear, we choose bear. So why are guys getting offended? Let's watch my TikToks and then I'll talk about it.
At best, you're going to encounter 2 bears. And that's if you're like real.
Hey, baby girl, I can't wait to look at the statistics behind this with you because I have seen way more than 2 bears and I would still choose bears over men. The summer I was 16, I backpacked around Alaska, including Katmai National Forest, where there are lots of grizzlies, and we woke up to bear prints around our tent every morning and encountered many bears along the trail. In fact, at one point, I had to abandon a salmon I had caught to the bears. But let's get back to those statistics you want to talk about, where you said 99.9999999 and had your little temper tantrum. There are 845,000 black bears and grizzly bears in North America, and on average, they kill 1 to 4 people per year. Let's go with the average and say 2 people per year. That means that 0.0002% of bears in North America commit violent crimes against people. Okay, so keep that number 2 times 10 to the negative 4th percent in your head, and let's look at men. According to the 2021 US Census, there are 1,900,000.
Okay, I did the math right, but I misspoke here. It's 100,994,000.
94,000 men ages 18 and above. Now, the statistics around violent crime committed by men are a little squidgy because we know that there is vast underreporting of SAs by men against women, and we do know that 99% of SAs are committed by men. We think that between 1 in 5 and 1 in 10 SAs are actually reported, but let's be really conservative here and say that the underreporting is only by about 50%. But let's look at all violent crime committed by men. Now, the FBI says that violent crime also includes manslaughter, homicide, assault, and armed robbery. So using those statistics, I came up with a conservative estimate of 1,484,000 men that commit violent crimes in the US every year. Again, we're assuming a significant amount of underreporting. So that's about 1.47% of men. Another way to think of that is that 3 out of every 200 men pose a danger to women, and 3 out of every 1,267,500 bears pose a danger to women. So yes, while technically you are correct, we are not likely to encounter bears here in America. So yes, while you technically are correct that there are way more men than there are bears in America, statistically, men still pose a greater threat. But you also managed to miss the entire point of this exercise, which is not really about the statistics. It is the way that women interface with men in society and the way that we perceive men as a threat based on your behavior. It's very telling that dudes like you and many others on this app are taking women's experience and fear of men as something that you can turn into a debate and argue out of existence. So my video on the bear versus man question has only been up for a few minutes, and dudes are already throwing a fit in the comments. A video where I'm discussing the statistics around the violent crimes that men commit against women every year and why women might be afraid of men because of that. Dudes have to center themselves and manufacture their own oppression, claiming that I am discriminating against men and that this nonsense here. Men can't even sit with their own discomfort about the reality of the harm that is done to women and children in our society by folks of their gender. Imagine being part of a marginalized class and not even being able to talk about the harm that is done to you and the feelings that that evokes without members of the oppressing class coming in and centering everything on themselves and trying to frame themselves as the victim. It feels really Darvo-y. And yet men wonder. They wonder why women have this opinion of them.
Why do women do this? I mean, I get it, internalized misogyny. Now, click on the comment to see the video and get full context, but the bear versus man dilemma that everybody is talking about and is giving us a real view into the minds of men in our society. And women who come out of the woodwork to play this game, even though we know that 99% of SAs are committed by men and 87% of violent crimes in America are committed by men, and the vast majority of SAs against children are committed by men. So yes, people of other genders can commit violent interpersonal crimes, but there is a reason that the vast majority of them overwhelmingly are men. And there's a reason that so many women are sharing their personal experiences about interactions with men that make them feel no longer safe around men. Ladies, let's look at the stats and listen to other women before we start leaving these kinds of comments. More man or bear? Dudes, y'all would be safer with the bear than with a random man too. Excellent comment. When will men start to learn that the patriarchy harms them too? That their lack of emotion regulation, that the fact that we teach them the only manly emotions they're allowed to feel and express are lust and rage, lead to men committing violence against other men, as well as the loved ones of men. The reasons y'all feel powerless and full of rage, that's because of the patriarchy and also capitalism. You've been denied the right to feel and understand and process your feelings in a safe way. And what happens when you can't cope because you haven't been given the tools to learn how to do that is that you hurt other people. I personally have a lot of hope for the next generation of men that they are learning how to regulate their emotions and be safer members of society. And honestly, I haven't given up all hope for today's men either if they want to do the work. Hey girlfriend, you know that SA is not actually about sexual attraction, right? It's about power. First off, let's not do this to Arrow Ace people. But we all know that the reasons that men assault women have nothing to do with their reproductive drives and have everything to do with dominance, rage, and power. Revenge, anger, and control. But let's not stereotype our Arrow and Ace friends, and let's not play this game with this debate because it's not helpful. Is the man or bear debate the stupidest thing to happen on this app? Nope, I think it's actually been really interesting and enlightening. The most interesting part for me has not been the asking women, if you were lost alone in the woods, would you feel safer with a man or with a bear? It's been seeing how men react. I'm 0% surprised at all of the women saying, well, obviously bear. I'd obviously be stuck with a bear over a man. It's seeing how a certain segment of men come absolutely unhinged at hearing women say that. How threatened they are to hear what women really think and feel. And then to see another cohort of men that are like, oh, yep, I agree with women. Totally understand why y'all would choose a bear. And then to see men ask this question in regards to their daughter or their mother or their spouse and have to wrestle with this issue for the very first time. What is the reality of being a woman alone with a strange man in America? It's sorting the wheat from the chaff, if you will, but it's also been really fascinating.
So why do men take the man or bear discourse incredibly personally? I have literally taken the stairs up to the top floor of my building just to avoid being in an elevator with a woman alone so she wouldn't feel weird. And yet somehow I'm worse than a bear. Okay, bro, well, you could acknowledge that there is a legitimate reason why a woman would not feel safe being alone in an elevator with a man. So you can acknowledge that there are real reasons why women are scared to be alone with men. You knew it wasn't about you personally, but you still took the stairs instead of the elevator. So you can understand that if you are not a safety threat to women, that this conversation is not about you and you don't need to center yourself. Do you really think that women are saying that every man in the world is worse than a bear? Or do you think there's something else going on here? Something that I think you recognized when you chose to take the stairs instead of... Are men the victims in the bear or man discourse? The number of men in my comments saying that they're being victimized by women having an open public discourse about how we don't feel safe around men is wild. So let's talk for a second about what these men are doing. This is a classic manipulation technique used by abusers. It's called DARVO. Deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. So first step, deny that men are really a threat to women. Most men are good guys. It's not me. I would never do this to a woman. Attack, you women are man-hating misandrists. Reverse, victim, and offender. I'm the victim of you being a predator. That's a comment that a dude made to me because we're talking about the rates of violence that men perpetrate against women. If you find yourself in a relationship with someone who uses DARVO, please know that it is a classic abuser tactic. They're not the victim, they're manipulating you. When I said before that the man versus bear discourse is separating the wheat from the chaff when it comes to men, this is what I'm talking about. Not only the men who obfuscate by creating a debate where they think they can argue this topic out of existence, not only the men who center themselves and say, woe is me, I'm a good guy, why are you blaming all men? But it's the men like this who are telling on themselves when it comes to the way men enact violence against women. They say things like, I'd love to throw you in a ring with a bear. I'd love to see what happens to you if you're ever in the woods with a bear. It really gets to the core of how angry and fragile men are that they have any kind of discourse where they fantasize about harming women, or where the logical conclusion, because they cannot empathize and understand the point of the argument, is for them to resort to scenarios in which women are harmed. And y'all wonder why we don't feel safe around you and why we would pick the bear every flippin' time.
Okay, so I think it's really fascinating that the reasons that men are so offended by this take, and the reason that they take it so personally, is that, well, it's a myriad of reasons. One of the reasons is that men can't handle rejection. Before you come at me for not all men, go back and watch my TikTok where I address that. But men have such a fear of rejection in our society and an inability to handle it because of the way they've been conditioned under patriarchy, that they cannot handle, that they cannot comprehend that a woman would choose a bear over a man. And more specifically, men take it very personally. They insert themselves into the conversation. They center themselves and their feelings. And so when we say we would rather be with a bear than a man, they hear we would rather be with a bear than with them personally, that individual. And I think it's very helpful for men to understand this discourse by saying random man or random bear, because of what I've seen on TikTok, the huge tendency of men to take it personally and think that this is an attack on them as an individual, when what we're really talking about is not about men's feelings. It's not about whether we hate all men, right? What it is a conversation about the violence that women experience in our society and the reasons that women feel unsafe. When we see a man, a random man, we can't know if he is a safe man or not a safe man. We can't know based on his words, based on the way he looks, based on the way he moves. We can't know if he is a safe man or not, because all of us have experienced men who have told us outright they are safe and they are not. So the guys on TikTok who are saying, I'm a safe dude, this isn't about me, why are you hating on me, you can't apply this to all men. Like, all of us, like we can't take you at your word. And if you're upset about that fact, take it up with other men who created the dynamic that makes women afraid in the first place. So thanks for watching today. I hope this was helpful. When we talk about people care, these are important issues that we have to include in our conversation. I'll be back real soon. Please don't forget to click like and subscribe. Thanks.